Great. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Yes, please, Navor.
Thank you so much, Nazirov from Voice of America.
Maybe we don't even have to use this because it's not really working properly. Hello. Well, I can always speak louder.
Speak and we can repeat it,
that's fine.
yes.
Use my broadcast voice, right?
There you go.
Very good to have both of you here and the entire delegation, obviously. I'm going to start with Mr. Nazirov. You just talked about your international partners and who you're working globally to develop capital markets for Uzbekistan. Keeping in mind that the banking culture is quite primitive in Uzbekistan and the private sector is quite opaque, who are some of the domestic players that you're working with, that you want to rely on, and what's the financial climate like in Uzbekistan now?
So the question was, who are the domestic players they're relying on? What is the financial climate like in Uzbekistan, given that it's still developing?
Definitely. And I'll have a question for him too, but I'll wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. When you ask about local players, do you mean local investors? Or you mean
Local investors, local businesses who want to bring in the capital into the market.
We have done sort of quick back of the envelope analysis of how much potential capital available for investors in Uzbekistan. And I think that figure ranges between 10 to 30 billion dollars that is in Uzbekistan, outside of the banking system, which means at home, in dollars, possibly. And that money needs to find a way to work. Yeah? The best way to do it is by doing kind of collective investment streams, mutual fund type of products in Uzbekistan. Unfortunately, we have a very small professional industry, and I'm happy to see some of the players here who have operations in Uzbekistan. We will be spending a lot of time and effort in trying to bring out or increase our own institutional capacity in terms of broker-dealers, and this is why we're meeting with FINRA tomorrow, and we'll talk about assistance in helping to setting up our own self-regulatory players in Uzbekistan. In terms of investor base, otherwise, obviously there are insurance companies, banks, which are currently not allowed to invest in equities. We're working with the central bank to see if they can make changes in the law. But other than that, it's a really collective and systematic process of kind of bringing everybody to the table and find a way how to implement that in a structured way.
And you also had a question for Minister Davletov.
Justice Minister Davletov. As much as the Uzbek government wants to welcome international organizations, they've been telling us and them that the door is opening wider and wider. Several of them who are eager and deeply interested to work with Uzbekistan feel stuck legally. I'm talking about organizations like Human Rights Watch, who already have access to the country, but they want to get registered. And then there are organizations like the Freedom House and IRIX and Internews, whose operations were liquidated by the courts of Uzbekistan a while ago. So they have a certain baggage, and they tell us that they want to open a new page, but they can't because they don't see a way to get registered or accredited. What kind of options do they have if they want to have a permanent presence in the country? And is the government thinking of creating new conditions or maybe opening a really new page to give them more access into the country?
So just to make sure everyone heard, the question was about the registration of NGOs, some of which have been shut down previously. What is the government doing to create an environment where they can re-register and come back to the country?
NGO sector in Uzbekistan is blooming at the moment. We already have 9,000 registered NGOs working on all spheres, and many, many more coming because of the new era. And about the cases that you raise, we have to look at them individually, because if you talk about Human Rights Watch, there's a decision by the Supreme Court of Uzbekistan about liquidating this organization back in 2005. So there's a legal issue because the decision is in force. But we do have really good relations with HRV, and Mr. Smirlov is coming all the time to Uzbekistan and doing his everyday functions and with no barriers. So if the same problems we have with some others as well, but we're open to partnership because they're working without even registering. It's not a big issue at this moment. And there is no barrier not to work without any registration. But we're in the process of dealing with the issue, and there is no problem with opening a new page in partnership with these NGOs. But I think even Human Rights Watch, the other organizations, our partners can say that they're not having any problems with Uzbek government. So that's why my recommendation, we need to look at these matters individually. But overall, the situation has been liberalized. There's a prescribed in the legislation the procedure, which will simplify it really significantly in terms of time, in terms of the documents that they supply, in terms of the fees that they pay, and all the procedures they've been simplified, including on religious organizations as well.